Good evening, visitors. Welcome to the Australian War Memorial's Last Post ceremony. My name is Joanne Smedley, and joining us today from the Australian Army is Warrant Officer Class 2, Maureen Bronjes. We warmly welcome the family of Private Hedley Donald Glynn, whose story will be told shortly by Warrant Officer Bronjes, who is Private Glynn's niece. We welcome the veterans who have served, those that are still serving, and the families that support them. We acknowledge the members of RSL and Services Clubs Association, RSL Victoria, and RSL Queensland, who are watching the broadcast of this ceremony across Australia. During this evening's ceremony, wreaths will be laid at the base of the Pool of Reflection by family and visitors. Please stand and join in the singing of the national anthem.
Australians, oh, let us rejoice, for we are young and free. We've golden soil and wealth for toil. Our home is birth by sea. Our land abounds in nature's gifts, our beauty rich and rare. In history's page let every state advance Australia fair. In joyful strains then let us sing, advance Australia fair.
The Australian War Memorial was the vision of Charles Bean, Australia's First World War official historian. Bean landed with the Australian troops on Gallipoli and stayed with them at the front through to the end of the war. The idea of this national memorial and museum came to him at Pozières, France, in the depths of the bloody fighting of 1916. Bean's idea was that this would be a place where families and friends could mourn loved ones buried in faraway places. It would also be a place that could help all Australians understand what these men and women had endured and what they had done for us. Bean's vision, to which we remain true, is best expressed as inscribed in the entrance to the memorial's galleries. Here is their spirit, in the heart of the land they loved, and here we guard the record which they themselves made. Tonight we will read the story behind just one of those on the Roll of Honour, which lists the names of more than 102,000 men and women who have given their lives for us in war and operations for more than a century. But first we present a lament, Flowers of the Forest. Wreaths or floral tributes will now be laid at the base of the Pool of Reflection.
Today, we pay tribute to Private Hedley Glynn. Known to family and friends as Don, Hedley Donald Glynn was born on the 8th of April 1917 in Orange, New South Wales, to Michael and Alice Glynn. Before the outbreak of the Second World War, Glynn had served in the 2nd Army Service Corps of the 2nd Motor Transport Division of the militia. On the 5th of June 1940, he volunteered for the 2nd Australian Imperial Force, enlisting in the militia in Sydney at Martin Place. At this time, Britain was facing its greatest peril, following the fall of France, and enlistments in the 2nd Australian Imperial Force soared. Glynn was one of more than 100,000 Australian volunteers who flocked to recruiting stations during the Australian winter of 1940. Following enlistment, he was posted to the Australian Army Service Corps, and in mid-September, Glynn embarked in Sydney for overseas service aboard the transport ship HMAT S4, bound for the Middle East. The following month, he arrived in Palestine. At the beginning of April 1941, Glynn's unit embarked for Greece, where Australian, New Zealand and British units, known as the Anzac Corps, were sent to support the Greeks. When German troops invaded Greece on the 6th of April, they overwhelmed the Allied troops. Lacking aircraft and armour, the Allies were poorly prepared to withstand the German onslaught. Glynn was last seen on the 20th of April 1941. Reported missing. He is presumed to have been killed in action on this date. One of more than 300 Australians were killed during the Greek campaign. He was 24 years old. Today, his name is commemorated on the Athens Memorial, which lists those missing soldiers with no known grave from the Greece campaign. Glynn's name is listed here on the Roll of Honour on my left, among some 40,000 Australians who died while serving in the Second World War. His photograph is displayed today beside the pool of reflection. This is but one of many stories of service and sacrifice told here at the Australian War Memorial. We now remember Private Hedley Donald Glynn, who gave his life for us, for our freedom, and in the hope of a better world. They shall grow not old, as we who are left grow old. Age shall not weary them, nor the years condemn. At the going down in the sun and in the morning, we will remember them. We will remember them.
lest we forget.
We leave you this evening with the words of the memorial's founder, Charles Bean. Many a man lying out there at Pozières or in the low scrub at Gallipoli with his poor, tired senses barely working through the fever of his brain has thought in his last moments, well, it's over. But in Australia, they will be proud of this. Ladies and gentlemen, that concludes the last post ceremony. Thank you for visiting the Australian War Memorial, and good evening.